Okay, thank you. All right, so just a little bit about me real quick. My name is Allison Ditmer. I went to Bowling Green State University, go Falcons. I got my bachelor's there and MBA. I spent 15 years working in digital marketing at Abbott Nutrition right here in Columbus. And now I get to build my content business. I work with entrepreneurs and organizations who want to build their brands online through strategic content. And along the way, I also enjoy just helping other people get better about creating content. And so I send a weekly newsletter that's free called The Organic Freelancer. I send it every Thursday, and you can get content tips and SEO tips in there as well, and just a little peek into my journey and what I've been learning these last 19 months of doing this. So again, thank you for being here. This is a much bigger audience than I ever thought, so I really appreciate your time. But first, you want to find out, how can you get LinkedIn leverage, right? That's why everybody's here. So for a show of hands, how many are posting or have ever posted on LinkedIn? Keep your hands up. Okay, good. What about, how many of you are posting 1 to 2 times a week? How many are posting every day? Okay, we've got a good mix here. So why do I care so much about LinkedIn? Let's give you just a little bit of a snapshot into that, going from corporate to my solopreneurship journey. So this was me, one of my last times sitting in that cube there at Abbott Nutrition when I was boxing up all my stuff. And it was in July of 2021, actually, that I made the decision and said, you know what, it's been 15 years, it's been a good 15 years, but I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to do something else. I had gone through COVID with my husband, as many of you guys have had to do too. We had 2 little kids who were 5 and 3 at the time. And I just was like, you know, this is something that is just not fitting anymore. There's gotta be something that I can do that's more flexible, that gives me a different path in business than what I'm doing now. So in 2022, I discovered writing online. I started writing on medium.com, if anybody knows that platform. Anybody can go there and sign up and start writing. And I just started writing about topics that I liked, self-improvement, parenting, travel. I really wasn't getting hung up on exactly what I needed to write for an audience. I just enjoyed writing. And I was like, hey, is this something I can take with my digital marketing background and my SEO knowledge and offer it as a service to customers? So in 2023, I started getting serious about LinkedIn. So really just last year, around January, February, I followed a writer called Tim Dennings, if anyone has heard of him. He's a very successful freelancer on medium.com. And he was saying, hey, if you are not on LinkedIn, you are missing the boat, right? If you have a service, if you have a product and you're not on there, you need to give it a look. So I went back to LinkedIn, I looked at my profile. It was the typical corporate profile, right? I had done nothing with it. I had posted, you know, what my title was. Before then, I call it like being a LinkedIn lurker. Like I was there, I was checking out what people were doing, who my friends, you know, had they been promoted, what companies had they moved to, but I was never gonna post on LinkedIn. No way, that's weird. Well, never say never. So in April of 2023 is when I signed my first 2 clients. And this was a huge aha moment. This was after posting for 2 solid months, 5 days a week. I made that commitment up front. And this was the validation that I needed to say, hey, this is something that I can do. And I can honestly say, like standing in front of all of you, that 100% of my business has come from LinkedIn. It's come from direct messages of people who've seen my content, who've said, hey, I see that you do this. Would you be interested in doing this for me? We start that conversation. It's also been from individuals who've never commented or actually liked or loved my content, right? There's been no interaction, but yet they've seen my content and reached out to me anyway. And then of course, some of those have produced referrals as well. So that's been my lead generation strategy, really, is being on LinkedIn. That's what's worked. And for you, many of you are solopreneurs in here. For me, like looking at the process, it's come down to 3 things that have worked well. 1, posting content that resonates with your customers. And I'll be really honest, right in the beginning when you're doing this on your own, you don't always know what that is. It is some experimenting, right? But getting to a point that you are creating content that is resonating with the target audience you want to talk to. The second thing, and this is probably what's not talked about enough, is engagement, like consistently engaging, having some kind of system where you are getting into the practice of not only creating content and posting, but you're engaging as well. And then the third point, and I think this is really, really important, it's changing that mindset from not selling, but honestly trying to connect. Okay, this is a social platform. Yes, LinkedIn has this perception of being like super professional, maybe a little stingy, but things are changing. It's really becoming more of a content social platform, so be social. So the reasons why LinkedIn should matter to you, and I'll just give you some higher level facts. It's the largest professional social networking site online. So come on, we're all here because we have a business, we have a service, we have a product. You need to like really seriously consider being on LinkedIn if you're not there already. It has over 1 billion members in 200 countries and regions. On average, users spend almost 8 minutes looking at 7 different profiles or pages at a time on LinkedIn. And if you're a B2B company, of those surveyed, 65% said they received at least 1 customer from LinkedIn, which is a pretty darn good stat, right? So what is this, all those facts and what I'm saying, how does this really translate? For me, it says your customers are on LinkedIn. And what do you want to do? You want to fish where the fish are, right? Like if we're going to spend our time on social media, we want to be where the fish are. So LinkedIn makes sense. That's point number 1. Point number 2, people buy from people. How many times? Think about the things you purchase. Think about the brands you love. Oftentimes, there's a face behind who that brand is. There's some kind of connection that you have, something they've said about who they are, what they represent, what they love, and you've connected to that, right? So people buy from people. Purchase is all about trust, and trust begins with connection. And then the last thing that's just really important, and this comes with being on social and engaging and creating content, you want to attract customers, right? That's the goal, instead of having to chase them. And you can do that. You can do that through content. So you got to ask yourself, what if people were always seeking you out for your services and you weren't always having to find them? So where do you start? First, I really believe strongly in this. It's building a personal brand up front, right there. And what is a personal brand? It's the perception others have of you and the content that you're creating and what you're showing online. That's what it is. Your goal is to get your customers' perception to align with your business intention. In a personal brand, it breaks down to several things. So these 2 people on screen, whether you like them or not, they have built very strong personal brands. Taylor Swift and Elon Musk, if nobody knows, I'm sure you all do. It has to do with what you do, how you look, who you associate with, what you believe in, and how you show up. All those things feed into a personal brand. And here's the little secret. You don't even have to be the best at what you do in the industry. You have to be the clearest. That's the game. People need to understand what you do and who you help. Okay, so how do you build a personal brand? I think it comes down to 3 things if you can focus on this. 1, authenticity. You have to be you. Look at all these people in the room. You guys introduced yourselves. There are so many different things about each and every one of you. You all have a story. You all have experiences that feed in to why you're here and what you're doing, right? So use that, talk about it. We all have uniqueness, so share it and be real. In this world, and I know this might not go over big of AI, but be real. Like people want real connection, okay? So remember that, that's super important. The second thing is creating conversations. You can put yourself out there, you can give this information about what you do and who you are, but if you're not creating conversations and you're not starting the dialogue, it's not going to go very far. It's not going to resonate, very long. So share helpful lessons, ask for feedback, and be supportive. There's nothing wrong with asking your target audience, what are your problems? What do you think of my product? What do you think of my service? How was it before working with me? And then how was it after working with me, right? Get that feedback. That's super important so you can understand what content is resonating most on social. And be supportive. There's nothing better than being someone's cheerleader. And I feel that has been my experience on LinkedIn. It's a good lesson in life, right? Not only for like what you're doing on social, but in life. Be supportive. Everybody loves it when you can call out, hey, I saw that you posted about that new product you just did. That's awesome. Like, I love that part about it. Be genuine. It's important. And then the last thing is finding your cadence. So again, getting back to the fact that a lot of you are doing this on your own. You don't have large teams that are creating content. You have to find the cadence that works for you. Lean into that schedule. I was just telling Christina just a little bit ago, we were talking about how much time to spend on LinkedIn and what that reality is. It does change. For me, I have 2 little kids. They're going to school now. I was on a good schedule over the summer of always posting at 8, so I was around it engaged. Well, guess what? My kids are getting on the bus about that time. So you have to definitely find the schedule that works for you and commit to how much you want to post. Currently, that's 5 days a week for me. I committed to that a long time ago. It's a habit that I've kind of baked into my schedule. I do post on the weekends too, if I feel like it. But you do have to just find what works for you. And in that process of creating your personal brand and engaging, you will boost your online presence over time. Okay, so this is a picture of Justin Welsh. He's known for solopreneurship. I saw him talk at CEX. It's a content entrepreneur expo in Cleveland, Ohio, earlier this year. He's a multimillionaire in the content business. And how did it happen? It happened on LinkedIn. He started by offering his marketing consulting services, and then he really did enjoy writing as well. And he was like, hey, I'm gonna start talking about this on LinkedIn. I'm gonna start saying like the things that I'm doing with clients and what we're doing. And then people started reaching out to him and said, hey, I wanna understand how better to do that on LinkedIn too. And then he was like, there's this whole other audience here where I can kind of help instruct them. And it's really done well from him. And as it concerns personal branding, I liked what he had to say here. He said, social media is the new resume. Nowadays, when you meet somebody, you can immediately type in their name online and you can start to see what they're saying, right? And you better believe in this professional world, people are going to LinkedIn, they're typing in your name, and they're gonna see what your presence is like. And he said, he made this quote, you'd better start controlling the narrative. Because really that is the point. Like, you have that control, you have that power to do that. So if you have any type of career problem, whether it's wanting to sell more, wanting to hire better people, wanting to make more money, wanting to have a better job, create a personal brand. So what does this look like in action? And I'm gonna get to some tactical things here that you could do. So here's your profile page at the top. This is that headline banner space. Let's focus here on the image of your picture. First and foremost, you want it to be approachable, right? You want a smile helps. A smile says, hey, you're welcome to talking to other people. Make it approachable. Believe it or not, I still get connection requests with people with no profile picture, or it's so far in the distance I can barely see them. Not good, right? So focus on having a nice, clear, approachable photo there. There at the top too, if there's anything for you to take away in this small space, it's these 2 things. You want to make really clear what I do and how I help and who I help. Those 3 things. So for me at the very top, it's content strategist and SEO writer. Those are 2 terms like people are looking for. And then right below that, I say I'm seeking out growth mindset CEOs with passionate mindsets. I am not someone focused on like the industry as my niche. I really care about the people. If you're passionate about what you do, I want to work with you. And I think that just comes with 15 years of working in corporate, and the bottom line is if I miss anything about that job, it's the people I worked with. It's not so much all the projects we did with websites, it's the people. So that's the part that's important to me that I try to focus on going forward in this business. And then if you scroll down on your profile page, there's your About section. And this is the area where you have more freedom to talk a little bit more about what you do. So for me, it's like focusing on two things. One, giving a little short snippet, a little bit more about who you are. So give me something that I can relate to about you. So for me, my opening statement is in July of 2021, I handed in my notice after 15 years in the corporate 9-to-5, call it COVID PTSD, a midlife crisis, or the work-life balance facade. I needed a mental recharge. And you wouldn't believe how many people, mostly moms, have reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, I relate to that. Like I've been working so long in corporate too, and I just need something different. I need something that fits my lifestyle. So give a little snippet there. What I would say is don't get so attached to going on and on about all your titles and awards. Because I'll be honest, people glaze over that. It doesn't give you much to then connect with if you're trying to really like build that audience or build just that awareness. I would steer you more towards what's something more personal about you that I can then relate to. And then is when you go into like how you can help. So less about me, more about how I can help you, right? So this is really starting to focus on what do you do? Me, I go into things and give examples of how I've been a fractional content marketer for a nonprofit organization where I oversee all their content planning and execution across various digital channels. I've worked with a B2C where it was very focused on growing their organic traffic with their blog post, where I did all the planning and execution for that. And then you can further just talk about like things that you're doing to help others, but always be focused on like, how am I helping? That's what I need to focus on. And then finally, when it comes to the posting, right? So this is moving past the profile page, getting into the actual content that you're creating. You can be strategic. And how you can be strategic is thinking of it in 3 different ways. 1, understanding your goals. 2, defining your content pillars. And 3, being intentional with a call to action. And I'm gonna dive into each one of those. So first, like, what are you trying to accomplish? And these are several questions you need to ask yourself. So are you trying to create awareness and build a following? Are you trying to encourage engagement and nourish an existing audience? Are you trying to convert more leads to increase sales? Or is it a mix of those? And honestly, oftentimes it is a mix. When I'm working with clients, I typically try to say, okay, for the next 3 months, what is our priority 1 and what is our priority 2? And that's what then starts to guide us in terms of what kind of content we need to be creating after that. So defining your content pillars, this is where you really want to demystify what you do. You want to simplify what it is you do in the day-to-day, what are your services, so it's super clear what you know. You want to give others a peek into your expertise, right? By making it really simple and easy to consume. You want to give lessons that you can pass along to the person behind you, because guess what? A lot of you have been in your careers a long time that are sitting in this room. And you better believe you have lessons that you have learned that are very applicable to people who are far behind you who want to be in your position someday. So talk about that. Share some of that. That's really valuable information that people resonate with. And then finally, ending with a call to action. And okay, here's where I have my little highlighted statement here. You can have all the likes in the world, you can have the hugest following on a social platform, but if you're not prompting anybody to take action with it, who cares? Why does it matter, right? So you really should be focusing on a call to action. And I think honestly, this is what separates people from like early on starting to create content, and those that have been creating content for a while. Before they even start that, they know in their head, what's the takeaway here? What do I want my reader to do? So it can be a question, simply a question of you sharing something about your experience and then asking someone else, have you had a similar experience, or what has been your experience, just to get the engagement going. It could be a free resource. So I bet with everybody in here, there's things that you use every day. There's some kind of template that you're using to organize information, or there is some kind of checklist that you go through in your procedures of what you're trying to do. That could become a free resource that you could also offer to other people who would be interested in what you do and your services. And then if it's relevant, you can also do, of course, a link to your services page where you've talked about like what you've done, and it's a chance to elaborate like even more. But again, always ask, what action do you want your reader to take next? Okay, so what posts are doing well on LinkedIn? And I say that in regards to like other social platforms. From my observations, it really comes down to ones that have educational insights that are very actionable. Yes, you can be inspiring. I even do it myself on the weekend. There's times that things just hit me kind of hard and it's like, hey, I just want to put this out there. Not really educational by any means, more probably on the inspirational realm, but what I've seen really perform well when looking at the analytics is the educational content, where you're giving something that someone can then take action on. Because I think for sure LinkedIn is one of those platforms that does have more people coming to it that are business related and they want to learn. They want to get some kind of value out of the time they're spending there. But as I know as a marketer, and as probably many of you know, you just constantly have to test and experiment, right? Because things change, algorithms change, so you're going to get set on a strategy, and you better believe you're going to have to review your analytics, and you're going to have to also make changes when that comes up. So here are 3 different types of posts. If you're sitting here right now thinking, oh, what do I post? I don't even know what to post. Here are 3 different types I'm going to walk through. You've got your personal story post, your thought leadership post, and your social proof post. So here's a personal story post, and as you can imagine, this is something about you that you've experienced that you can talk about. So for this example, you could talk about a challenge you had and how you were able to overcome it. For me, I made this graphic in Canva pretty easily, and it was all around being a freelance mom. And I said, here's my freelance mom truth. I became more productive when I started to lean into 30-minute working windows. And if you're a parent out there, you know what I'm saying, because the kids are at home and you're trying to get work done, and oh, Mom, I need a snack. Mom, can you go get that? Oh my gosh. I'm very much that personality that like I wish I had long periods of time, and now that they're back in school, I do, which is really great. But you don't always have that. And that was a big realization for me when I started freelancing on my own and being home all the time. I had to embrace the smaller chunks of time to get things done. So this is a post I put out there, and then I asked others how they've dealt with a similar challenge, just in an effort to like increase engagement and get people talking. Thought leadership post. Here's the second type. You could give your point of view on an industry trend and provide a helpful resource. So for this one, for example, I talk about SEO in my content from time to time, and I said SEO is anything but dead, because Lord knows the last year, it's definitely had its ups and downs. Many people have been very rocked by what's been happening at Google, but if anything I've seen with the data and the clients I'm working with, SEO is still very, very important. And so when I started writing and going through this process and offering that as a service, I did notice there wasn't like a step-by-step guide. And I'm very much a person like structure, and it's like, what do I do next? So I created a 14-page guide for people who want to learn how to write an SEO blog post, and it's a free resource that I offer when you sign up for my newsletter. And then the third type of post, the social proof post. This is where you can showcase why others love working with you, okay? So take a testimonial, take a quote that someone has said about working with you, make a graphic, and then go on to talk about it. So for this one, this was with a client I worked with, and I actually in the post framed it as though like I was walking through the different problems they had, so I could kind of give examples. So if others had similar problems that would be interested in working with me, they would see that and be like, oh, okay, she does that. That's interesting. And then I showed the client testimonial. And of course, with these, you always want to end the post making it really clear and easy with how to reach out to you next to get in touch for your services. So those 3. More recently, what are the posts that have done well? And I just grabbed the top 3 in my analytics. So the first one, this is a snapshot from a video I did. And yes, video is super, super popular right now on LinkedIn. What I found is 60 seconds or less tends to perform better than some of the longer video content. But this was one I did on SEO. It was really kind of short and to the point, all around the fact of if you're going to invest in an organic content strategy, the point is you got to be patient because it does take time. And so like I went on to talk about articles that I'd written in January that are now outperforming my homepage in June. So just talk to that. I got over 18,000 impressions, which for me, that was a lot of impressions. I've never had that many on one post in the last 19 months of doing this, so that was pretty big. The second one, this was a question lifted from an actual conversation I had with a client where they said, are people really reading 1,500-word blog posts? Which is a fair question, right? Because I think the day and time that we live in, we feel like we never have enough time. So like, are people really taking time to read this? Because I feel like we've gotta have short material here. And I said, no, actually, like from Google's perspective, they still very much favor content that's very thorough in what it's talking about. So I walked through that in the post. I gave my reasons why you would want to do this. And then that got about 15,000 impressions, which again, pretty good. Oh, sorry. And then the last one around 5 lessons learned for freelancers and attracting clients, because I feel like if you're a freelancer, that topic never gets old. Everybody wants to know how to get clients, right? Super important. So I gave just some perspective into like what's worked for me, and that one performed well with about 8,000 or 9,000 impressions. Okay, and this quote I actually grabbed this morning when I was on LinkedIn, but your posts don't have to be cringe. And what I mean by that is I had a recent conversation with a friend who's in finance. He works the 9 to 5. And I said to him, why aren't you on LinkedIn? I know if I could go back in time, even in my corporate job, I would have tried to be on LinkedIn. I would have been building my personal brand. I would have been talking about what I did, because here's the bottom line. There's no security, honestly. There's never any security, right? But if you're building your personal brand and you're talking to like what you do and what you're interested in, and you're putting out into the universe of what you want, you won't believe the opportunities that are then available. To which he then looks at me and says, isn't LinkedIn just a place where everybody's bragging about themselves? I'm like, well, you'll have that. There's a little bit of that, but it doesn't have to be cringe. And this is Adam Grant's quote around that. Many people hesitate to share their work because they're uncomfortable promoting themselves. Sharing your art, writing, or invention isn't an act of self-promotion. It's an act of self-expression. If you don't put your ideas out in the world, no one else can benefit from them. And that's the truth. If you're not promoting yourself, who's going to do it? So just high level, because we could go into this in a lot of detail, post content forms. So this is the different types of ways that you can post content on LinkedIn. You've got your text-only post, which is exactly what it says, just text. Your text post with a static image, that's the classic selfie post, and I do a lot of them too, but it's like the image of you usually, and then what you're saying. Your carousel post, which this one is a snapshot of a carousel I did more recently around your website is your digital front door for your business. Don't make these 10 mistakes. And then it goes into like 14 slides where you scroll to the right and I give you information on what those mistakes are and a little bit there. You can also do a short video like I told you. And then other ways to grow an audience, which honestly I personally don't do because I tend to favor wanting to put more content on my owned properties. So like on my own website, on my own newsletter. So I have those email lists. But you could write LinkedIn articles. That's something you could do today, where you could talk about your expertise or talk about something that you know very well. That then gets you more attention. You can also set up a LinkedIn newsletter. So if you can be consistent and send something like on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly cadence, that's an opportunity too. So those following you can opt in and you can connect with them on a very regular basis. Okay, so yeah.
Sorry, silly question. I've noticed a tendency of people where they're posting really, really long, but it's like one sentence, double spaced, one sentence. It's like, oh my God, you're just trying to ratchet up the engagement measure, or is that a particularly strategic way of doing things?
It's a structure thing, so it's very easy. It's like easier to read when it's spaced out like that. I'll be honest though, more and more kind of everybody does their own style. So my perspective, I tend to like the spacing because I can scan it pretty quickly, but that's kind of a personal preference thing.
So it's not strategic for metrics then?
I don't think so, no. I think it has more to do with like how you want to like present yourself, more into that like personal branding thing. So you can't post content without an engagement strategy. Here's the piece of anything after you walking out of this room, I want you to remember. Content creation is the start. In all honesty, I would say it's about half of that. When I talk with my clients, we're not only talking about content, we're talking about what system are we putting in place to engage as well. So purposely engaging on others' posts is where you begin building the relationships, and it's really where you find your supporters, your collaborators, so you find other people with maybe some parallel services to you that you want to partner with, and it's also where you find your dream clients. So here's some engagement tips, again, just from my experience. If you can, I would say try to spend 30 minutes or so commenting on other people's posts before actually posting yourself. There is something to warming up the algorithm on LinkedIn. I know there's instances where I haven't done it, and I feel like I don't get as much reach as when I do go on there and I'm active and I'm basically like raising my hand to LinkedIn, hey, I'm here, you know, pay attention to me. There is something to that. Be cautious using AI. So I know there's a lot of AI people in here, and I actually like AI. I like it because it's a tool that makes some of my processes more efficient as a writer. But I will say, and if a lot of you are on LinkedIn and you've had people comment on your post, I'm sure you've seen this, where it's not working is people are copy and pasting someone's post. They're putting it into AI. AI is doing a summary of it, and they're using that as their comment on the post. When I see that, I'm like, oh, why? Why did you waste your time? Because honestly, I want to connect with you. I want to know something about you. I want to understand an additional insight from you. So that's where AI, right now, from what I've seen in that use case, it's not working well. So I would just say use caution, and I completely understand there's more and more where we're actually able to test AI and it can be trained to sound more like us. I'm just saying we're still a little ways out from that, from what I'm seeing in my comment section. Avoid the two-word comment with new connections. So this is where saying things like, love it, great post, thank you, they're all really good intentions, but the problem with that is it doesn't encourage any more dialogue between you and the other person. And so especially with new connections, if you're trying to, you know, have a conversation, it just doesn't do anything. So I would say avoid the two-word wording as much as you can with new connections. Utilize others' posts with the same target audience as yours. So you don't have to have a big following, okay? You can look at others who have a larger following or who are really active, who have a similar target audience. You can check out those individuals who are commenting on their post, and then you can click into those profiles and see what they're creating, and then make comments there, and then start that whole engagement cycle of like commenting on their stuff. So again, there's just this misconception, I think, sometimes of like, oh, I've got to be huge for it to even mean anything. You don't. You really don't. And then I think overall, like when I'm thinking of engagement, it's kind of moving people through this process of you're starting in this place of commenting, basically raising your hand of like, hey, here I am, this is who I am, I like your stuff, and you start there. You then move to the DMs, the direct messages, where you have that one-on-one conversation, and you're saying, hey, you know, I did like your post where you said about this. What else, you know, what else is there to learn from that? And you continue that conversation in the DMs, just one-on-one. And then from there, you know, one of two things happen. You either kind of stay stuck there, or you realize, hey, these are people I want to work with, so let's like jump on a call, let's talk through that, I'd love to learn more. Or, you know, they're people that you want to collaborate with and partner with, so it's not where you're even trying to sell a service, it's just where you are just honestly trying to make a connection. But again, never come off salesy, always come off helpful. If you go into every conversation thinking, I'm going to talk about less about me, and I'm going to focus on how I can help them, that's going to continue the momentum a lot more. Okay, so, and being on LinkedIn, this is a snapshot of me 1 year ago going into a Tiger Talk. How did I find out about it? Well, Neil kind of stole my thunder, but Bill Balderas, he posted on LinkedIn that he was going to be here and he was doing a talk. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know Bill. I'd love to see him. It's been such a long time. So I sent him a message. We started chatting. I realized it was not far from my house, and I was like, I have no excuse not to go. Showed up, met Neil, we connected, and then like he said, this whole year of teaching Dennison courses, I started in the spring, teaching one around digital marketing, did a summer session, now doing the Content Creation Accelerator next week. That was never in the plan. That was never anything I foresaw, but it all originated from starting and seeing that post on LinkedIn, coming to the live in-person event, and then meeting Neil, and everything's just kind of snowballed from there. And then I'm here in front of all of you guys doing my own Tiger Talk, which is pretty cool. That's what I love about the platform. And then you just make new friends and you meet new mentors. Again, these are pictures taken from CEX. These are my friends Blair, Jill, Adam, and Steven. We had been talking on LinkedIn. We're all kind of at different places, like in our journey of starting our own businesses. Steven actually sold a business for over $1 million in college, the most humble guy you'll ever meet. But it was so cool just getting to like hear about their stories, hear about their experiences. And then Austin there in the middle, he's one of the first people that I met on LinkedIn. When I saw his post, he has such a way with storytelling that I reached out to him and I said, oh, hey, I'm just now starting. You know, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I should be doing next. Super nice guy. Ended up doing a one-on-one session with him and just so much advice. And we continue to like talk and we're friends today. And then Latasha James, she has a podcast called Freelance Friday that I highly recommend. And she shares everything about social media in essence, all the different platforms when different things are coming out or there's new changes. She talks to that and of course like highlights her freelance journey, which is fun to hear about. So networking, when I was younger and in college, networking was the word, right? You gotta network. Honestly, I think connection is the better term. You wanna be strategic with who you connect with and who you follow, like absolutely. Following and identifying your ideal customer and connecting with their profiles, that's objective number one with you're on LinkedIn. Finding fellow peers that push and inspire you. Like I said, I've met so many friends and mentors that have just helped me along this way, because when you're doing this on your own, it can be very isolating. You feel like you don't really have anybody to talk to. It's been super important in pushing me forward. And then just being in the mindset to give more and ask for less. That's super important, I think. And after you're building your personal brand, you're putting this engagement system in place, high quality leads, they will follow. Your inbound strategy begins to work when you focus on sharing ICP focused content, you make engagement an intentional marketing priority, and you embrace a long game mindset. And that last point is super important. Results don't always happen super quickly, right? But I will tell you, things compound over again. You just have to stick with it. You have to have that long game mindset. So I would just say, growing your business is possible with LinkedIn. But the thing is, you have to start now. So if you guys need any LinkedIn posting ideas, you can use my QR code. You can get a sign up for free for my newsletter. You can have an entire month's worth of content ideas. And that is it. That's all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much.